Welcome to the show, Tony Klinger. You are an award-winning writer, director, and film producer. First worked on the TV series The Avengers and went on to build your career on films like Up the Junction, Gold, and Get Carter, working alongside stars like Roger Moore, Michael Caine, and Mickey Rooney, to name just a few. Your book, Who Knows? The Making of a Rock Movie, is the journey behind the scenes of the rock film The Kids Are All Right, which is about the band The Who. In 2018, you launched Give, Get, Go, a production and training company, followed by coaching in 2020 to share your experiences and coach those who want a career in film. There is a ton of stuff to talk about with you, Tony. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do tell us more.
Well, actually, I started before the Avengers. Yeah, the Avengers was the first thing of note.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I was also working for the Ministry of Defence, making training films. And
Oh, wow.
That's a chapter in my memoirs that I'm writing right now, which was kind of amusing because I was not good at any of that. It was fascinating. I got to ride in fast jets, combat jets, in nuclear submarines, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And then they discovered that I hadn't signed the Official Secrets Act. They never asked me. Not my fault. And when they asked me, they didn't kind of ask me. They kind of told me that's what I had to do. Yeah. Or the room I was in would stay locked.
On this or else kind of thing.
Yeah. So that was my start. And then I was, before that, in the holiday times, vacation times, I was first of all an assistant projectionist, assistant at everything. So I kind of got to learn all the ropes, like about distribution and sales and things like that, through circumstances and because I didn't know I couldn't. I think I have a distinction of I worked every technical grade in the film industry and some in music. And the reason that was so good is that I have kind of a shallow but broad knowledge of all the stuff in general and a very specific knowledge, kind of deep, on the things I did go on and do. So that was really helpful. It's kind of like a film school without me realizing I was in a film school.
No, how do you choose your music? By the themes of the film?
Well, one of the things I learned early was editing. And the way I did it was with music. I found that if I could get the beats of the music, it kind of gave me the timing for the cuts. So the right kind of music while I was doing the rough edits gave me a good feel for this works, this doesn't work. And then we would then get the real music from whoever we were using as a composer or already made music and get that with the film. And usually that worked. Usually because if you're empathetic with your composers, you've got the same vibe or whatever you want to call it, that they kind of get it, you know. And so I ended up being very lucky and very fortunate to find that almost everybody that I wanted to work with musically worked with me. And so I ended up working with some really great people. And then as time went on and I was now more of a director producer, I would get asked to do some films for them, you know, or videos, whatever. And so I ended up doing stuff, I don't know if it's on my CV, with people like Henry Mancini and James Galway and composers that came in the studios, and I'd have these conversations. I never knew what I didn't know. That was my problem. So the first film I had an original composer for, I had selected a kind of a rock thing. This was my first professional film called The Festival, came out the Cannes Film Festival. I was like 18, 19. And I wanted this rock soundtrack. And my old man who was in the film business said to me, Tony, that's great, but they won't buy it. I said, who won't buy it? He said, the guy from the big organisation Rank at the time, who owned all the cinemas. He said, he hates rock music. I said, what am I supposed to do? He said, get jazz. He likes jazz. And I didn't know where to go and get jazz. He said, well, the guy who's got jazz is the guy who's got a club around the corner, Ronnie Scott. So I just went knocking on his door. I was like 19 years old. I knocked on Ronnie Scott club door in the daytime. And they're not like their night hours. They weren't there. I had to wait. And he came round and he said, what do you want? He was kind of abrupt. And I said, I would like you to do the music for my film. He said, what the f*** are you talking about? Excuse me. He said, well, what budget you got? And I said, I think I can get a £400. He said, £400?
Right.
Tony Scott band. And I said, I can go 500.
Yeah.
And he said,
Wow.
where would you want it? I said, if you can come to the studio and he said, what, you want me to do it live? I said, well, yeah, because I
Yeah.
did it then.
Yeah.
And so we got him down and Pete King and the band to the studio in Delane Lee in Wembley. I think it was in Wembley. And I'm inside and he's playing and it was pretty good. And I'm going like that. And he's going, what are you doing? He stopped the thing. I said, can't you go a bit faster? He said, young Klinger here is telling me how to play. So come out here and conduct the thing band.
Yes.
Oh,
And I did
Wow,
because I
man.
said, no, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
So I'm conducting the Ronnie Scott band, have no idea. Actually came up with a great soundtrack. And
Wow.
we got 1,400 play dates. We were the second most played documentary in British cinema history. It did work. We did get the bookings. And
Yeah.
that was my first experience of kind of working with a proper composer. And so I ended up working with lots of people. I remember we had Maurice Jarre do the music for Shout at the Devil film with Lee Marvin and Roger Moore. And I was kind of in charge of the production side of the film. So I was at the studio and I looked down at the orchestra pit and there's this giant orchestra we'd hired. And he'd come in and I saw 6 grand pianos lined up. And I thought, what the hell? Why have we got 6 grand pianos?
Whose was that? Right?
That was
Yeah.
he wanted that. And I said, why have we got 6 grand pianos? And he said, because of this music, and it's like there's a big ship coming, and it's kind of like Jaws, dum, 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 that kind of all played in sync on the piano.
Right.
And so I took him on a side and I said, Maurice, I said, you do know we can multi-track this.
yeah, right.
I said, we can
Wow.
take
Yeah.
it and play it 6 times, it will sound just the same. And he
Yeah.
went, oh, it's different. It's just very great. And he insisted we had to have the 6 pianos.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you work with guys like that, we had Elmer Bernstein do the music for Gold.
Mm.
And when he arrived at the airport, I was going to pick him up from Heathrow. And he clearly was a little bit drunk.
Yeah.
He got off the plane and the guy saw me holding up I didn't know what he looked like, holding up a placard for Elmer Bernstein. And he said, are you the guy waiting for Elmer Bernstein? I said, yeah. He said, he's the composer, right? I said, yeah. He said, I wish you luck. I said, why? He said, he's written your entire score in the back of a cigarette pack. I said, what do you mean he's written the entire score? How can he do that?
Damn.
He said, well,
Wow.
I think you've got one
Okay.
tune maybe. And
Yeah.
so I take Bernstein to a guy called Jack Fishman, who was a music fixer. And I said, Jack, we're desperate. We've got to be in the studio in a day. And we got nothing. And him and his friends put together that score. And
Wow.
one of the songs for the score got nominated for an Oscar. And Elmer Bernstein was there, like he had
Wow.
nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So lots of experiences, different kind of people. When we started out with budgetary constraints, we didn't have any money. And so one of the stories you probably like was the true story. We'd made a film, the one after Festival Games, called Extremes, about young people, drug addiction, violence, in 1971, 72, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I was still a kid, and we went to different people, different publishing companies, to see if they'd give us some of their new unreleased tracks that we could listen to. And we talked to all the big guys. There was Harold Champagne, Cyril Shane, Dick James. All the big guys that owned all the music.
At that time.
We got to one of them. He said, I've got this stuff. He said, but they're very picky, these guys. And if they don't get the right feel for the film, he said they won't do it. It doesn't matter what the deal is. He says, if they do want to do it, they've never done anything like that before. So he played us a thing. I said, that's who I want. And so we said, well, okay, let's meet them. And he said, well, it's really difficult to arrange for these guys because they're out of it all the time. He said, so like, I wish you luck, but we'll try. And so we set up 3 screenings and they never turned up. And so the 4th time I was thinking like, okay, we've got to move on. And they turned up, and 3 members or 4 members of the band, and they sat in the cinema and they were smoking a lot of dope and tossed around. And they were going, yeah, we're getting the right vibe. This is good. We like this movie. And so I said, can we do it? They said, yes. And we agreed a deal, which was like for £200 or something like,
Yeah.
And and then we get a phone call from the then manager who said, if you could come up with another 250, I think it was, he said they need the money because they've got to make a payment on the truck, in the van, and they can't afford the drum kit. He said, so that could really help. And then you could have half the publishing. And I didn't have any money. So we went to the film financier and we said, look, could you please give us this money? And he threw us out. I mean, literally threw us out. He said,
Wow. Get out of here. Yeah.
I'm not even a effing music business. Get the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And that band was a band called Supertramp, and those were the first 4 tracks from their first album. And we could have had them for £250.
Wow.
And years later, when I had a soccer team that I ran with a composer called David Courtney, we had a soccer team in America, in Los Angeles, where we were living then. And the guys from the band didn't recognize me. And I said to them, I said, well, you had some music in one of my films. And they said, no, we didn't. We never did a deal like that with anyone. I said, well, you did because it's in my film. And they went, no, you didn't. I said, I'll play you the bloody film.
Yeah, so you can see for yourself.
Yeah,
Right?
so those things happened. Those things happened. It was kind of strange. It was in the days when the first 4 or 5 films I made, we didn't have a contract signed till we delivered the film. We shook hands on the deal. They kept to it. We kept to it, and there was no trouble. Now the bloody contracts are longer than the scripts, and the truth is that the longer the contract is, the more likely it is someone's going to break it.
How about that?
Very true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I literally what I said there as a joke is actually true. On one movie, the script was 102 pages long. The contract was 107 pages long.
Damn.
10 pages defining what was net profits.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, man, they get involved. The lawyers get involved. Hold on, I just gave you 3 words. That's gonna be $3,000.
Yeah.
Tom.
Oh, well, I've got loads of questions, but what is if you can boil it down to one or two bits of info, what would you say is your best advice for someone starting out in your kind of line of work? Would there be a particular thing you'd say to avoid certain pitfalls or something that you'd mention?
Well, yeah. First of all, next year coming out, I've got how to get your movie made,
Right.
by someone who knows, which is one book. Another one is how to get in the movie industry by someone who knows. And they're coming out next year, and they're genuinely aimed at people like you're describing, because everybody that comes to me asking advice, they start with how, the word how.
Yeah.
And it's because most of it is kind of common sense. Most of it's common sense. Like when somebody said to me the other day, well, it was like a couple of weeks, they said, they were talking to me about their movie and how they were going to sell it. And I said, well, what are you doing about that? And they said, well, we're getting a sales agent. I said, oh, really? I said, what are you paying for that? And they said, well, he's asked for 50%. We think we can beat him down to 40. I said, you shouldn't be paying more than 20. And they said, really? I said, yeah, but then you have to have a bit of a reputation, or somebody on your team has to have that kind of reputation. They said, you're trying to get a gig with us? I said, really, no. I said, I'm not. I said, but let me also tell you this. What are you doing about the sale in France? He said, I just told you we're going to get a sales agent. I said, you can come to Eurostar for £100 and go have lunch with the guy in Paris, and he'll love to see you, and you don't have to pay anybody a cent.
How about that?
And he said, what do you mean? I said, reach out, talk to people.
Yeah.
That's the key. So the key I'd say is don't be afraid to communicate. And if you communicate from your heart and you really mean it and you've got a passion for it, talk to people. That's the key. That's the one-line answer, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
Communicate.
Great advice. Yeah.
Wow. From the heart to the heart.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to get into the detail of something you don't know.
That's right.
And a lot of the people think they know how to make music or make a film or something like that, and they really don't. But the way you learn is to do it. You can have all the lessons in the world. I was a film lecturer and all that kind of thing. I used to run a couple of film schools, not the university film courses. And the ones that learned were the ones who would go understand why and then learn how.
Yes.
Because if you're just doing it for money, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Go deal in property or something, and that's fine. That's people like to do that. It's great. But if you want to be in the creative industries, you really got to care about it, or you shouldn't really be doing it.
Yeah.
I love that part when they was in that little documentary they had, The Secret,
Yeah,
and it says, "Go get it, and then find how to keep it."
that's it. The easiest thing in the world is to be in a situation where you kind of allow yourself to be pigeonholed into something which is not really right for you. If you're not passionate, it's like people say to me, "What would it take for you to make a film?" I'm lucky I get asked. I'm blessed, and I go, "Well, first, what's on the page? What you got?" And they go, "Well, it's going to be $1 million and it's this and it's that." I go, "I don't care unless you've got passion you can share with me."
How about that? Yeah.
And if I can't, then why would I do it? They said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Look, you can torture me, give me $100 million, I'll do whatever you want." But the truth is that I don't do those films. I do the ones I care about.
That's right.
And I write the things I care about, because what are we all? We're storytellers. Whether we do it musically or filmically or for television, we want to tell stories. We want to tell what's in our heart and give it to somebody else. And it really is as simple as that. It's not complex. How you do it is complex because that's the way it's built. And in my part of the industry, creative industry, unfortunately, a cheap film costs $1 million and a big film costs $200 million.
Yeah.
So that's a problem because you've got to get
and some of those cheap films turned out to be better than the ones they spent money on.
Exactly. When I was making that film, The Festival Game, we followed two films. That was in 1969, I guess. We followed two films. One was called If with Lindsay Anderson. The other one was called Easy Rider, which I'm sure you know about.
Right.
And the big studios wanted us to point the cameras at what they were promoting, which was Paint Your Wagon with Lee Marvin and Clint Eastwood and all that stuff.
Wow.
It was an okay film, but I thought the other two were going to win, and they were obviously going to be winners in the way I understand it. And I was at a lunch and I got a bit drunk, and the heads of the studios were there, and they said, "What are you talking about? What are you doing? Like, why are you pointing your cameras the wrong way?" And I said, "A big film isn't that it costs more; it's that it's big in its heart, and it's bigger to the audience. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It can be the biggest costing film in the world. If it's crap, it's crap."
That's right.
And a little film could have a perfect form. And and those two films were original. They were heartfelt. They were interesting. The people that made it were interesting. People in it were interesting.
Yeah.
And I got to do some work with the guys in Paint Your Wagon years later. But every one of those guys who were running the studios at the time asked me to read their scripts and paid me a lot of money to read their scripts after that.
God bless them. Listen,
for sure,
Brother Tony, thank you for the privilege of your time to come on our show today,
Tony.
man.
Absolute pleasure.
And really wonderful. Well, can we have you back next year?
Yeah.
Anytime you want.
Wonderful. I love it. And Tom's going to get all your info so we can spread the love.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Skyler.
Thanks for joining us, Tony. I just want to know, just for our viewers, if you are, you got any? Obviously, you've got your book out, and you've got a couple of books coming out. Do you have a website or any kind of social media kind of content?
Those things. Linktree, you can get everything, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that links you to the various websites and things.
Right on, brother. Stuff. Much love. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, all the best, brother.
Thanks, Tony.
Save the world. There's a
Thank you so much for watching. To stay up to date, please click subscribe and hit the bell. You can also join our group on Facebook and find us on LinkedIn and Instagram.